Okay, so since we are adding fractions, we know that when we add fractions, we need a common denominator. So the first thing we need to do is factor the denominators. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so now we have the denominators factored here. Now we're ready for step 2, which is to find the least common denominator. So to do that, what I'd like to do is I like to take the first fraction and whatever's in the denominator, the y plus 2, I'm going to start with that. And I'm going to put it out, just so I could see it better, I'm going to put it here in parentheses. And my least common denominator needs a y plus 2. And it needs a y plus 2 so that way when it's distributed to this first fraction, it's going to cancel out essentially with this y plus 2. Okay, I also need a y minus 2. So that way when it's distributed to this fraction, this is going to cancel out with this one. So I need a y minus 2. Okay, so these two are essentially going to cancel out with these two. Now let's take a look at the second fraction. The second fraction here has a y minus 2. So when this is distributed to this fraction here, this is going to cancel out with this one. So we don't need another y minus 2. It's already part of our least common denominator. Okay, we do not have a 4 though. So we need to put a 4 here. So that way when it's distributed over here, essentially this 4 will cancel out with this 4. So we need to put a 4, and we usually write, if there is just a number like that by itself, we put it in the front. So that is our least common denominator. Alright, so now we need to rewrite the fractions with the least common denominator. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a really big line and I'm going to copy down my common denominator that we found. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the numerator, what's in the numerator right here, and I'm going to bring it down. So we have a y plus 9 and I'm going to put it in parentheses because it's together. And then we have a 1. So I'm going to bring it down. Next thing I'm going to think of if this was distributed here. Okay? This has a y plus 2 and this has a y plus 2. This has a y minus 2 and this y has a y minus 2. But what it doesn't have is this 4. So I need to take this 4 and I need to multiply it with the y plus 9. So I'm going to bring down the 4 here because it needs to be multiplied with this y plus 9. Okay, now I'm going to do that with the next fraction. So if I were to think of this here, being distributed, that it has the 4, has the y minus 2, but what it doesn't have is this y plus 2. So I need to multiply this y plus 2 with the 1 here. So I'm going to bring the y plus 2 here. Now all I need to do is simplify the numerator here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and distribute the 4 here. Distribute this 1. And then combine like terms. Okay, now that we have our numerator written as 5y plus 38, we have to see if the whole fraction can be simplified, if we can divide out any common factors. So the denominator is already factored, but we need to see if the numerator can be factored. So can anything go into 5 and 38? No. So this is already completely factored. And there's nothing that can divide out of the numerator and the denominator. So that is how we know that this is our final answer.